Hi, friends. I'm Dave Barklow, pastor at Fort Walton Beach First United Methodist. Welcome to the Pastor's Study, our daily devotional to help us focus our mind on the things of God. We are looking through some of Jesus' teachings through the form of parables over the next few days. We're looking at 12. We've looked at, I think, 3 or 4 so far. We camped out on parable of the sower for a little while. Today we are looking at the story of what's often called the wheat and the tares. So let me read to you this parable that Jesus tells his followers. This is Matthew 13:24 through 30. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in the field. But while everyone was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So the plants came up and bore grain, and the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, An enemy has done this. The slaves said to him, Then do you want us to go and gather them? But he replied, No, for in gathering the weeds you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time, I will tell the reapers, Collect the weeds first and bind them into bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Dr. Callis, whose book we're using, Parables from the Backside, identifies this as a parable about hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is simply when you say one thing, you believe one thing, but then you act in a different way. And the church is often accused of hypocrisy, and all we can really do is explain. We can't deny. The fact is the church is actually made up of hypocrites, but that's part of the point of the gospel. We believe that all people sin, all people fall short of our ideals, but there is forgiveness. When someone says to me, the church is full of hypocrites, I say it is, and there's room for one more. Come and join us, because it's where we can grow and become better and be forgiven. But this is a parable about the wheat and the weeds, about how it is that the good and the bad grow up here together. Dr. Callis tells us something that in the Middle East, where Jesus is giving this parable, there's actually a kind of weed that looks indistinguishable from the wheat kind of as it grows. It has to reach much closer to maturity before you can actually tell the difference, even a master farmer. And so we see here that this is the state of our world, is what Dr. Callis says. It is a place where good grain and weeds grow together, where in fact they are often so intermixed and perhaps even so indistinguishable that judgment cannot be made until the day of final reckoning. Then he takes an interesting tack on it. He kind of says, imagine being the servants who are having to go to the master and say, what's happened here? The master bought good seed. The master had his slaves sow good seed in the soil. And then these weeds come up. And they don't necessarily know what's happened. So they go back to their master. You can almost hear the trepidation in their voice. Did we mess something up, Lord? Did we not do what was right? Friends, you might have had this experience of putting a whole lot of work into something only to have it not go the way that it goes. I was a youth director for years, and I would put hours and hours of time, energy, and prayer into an event only to have to spend most of the time, making sure the boys didn't sneak out of their rooms or we sow, and then the weeds can grow up as well, and we can go back to God and say, did we do something wrong? And God tells us, just like he told the slaves the servants in this parable, that the enemy has done this. There is an enemy in our world, and the good and the bad, they grow up together. The truth is, each of our own hearts is a field where things get sown, right? And the good and the bad in our own hearts grow up together. And we have to be careful about our own lives as well. Friends, as we think about this parable, let us have grace with one another. Let us realize that we do not get to judge in this life as we grow up together who is wheat and who is weeds, but rather that is God's work. Friends, I love you. Take care of yourselves and shine the light of Christ.